What's up, Trekkies? Hi, just to kind of, before we get into these ships, I will tell you, console, you are getting The Wait Is Over, the Discovery Lockbox, the new featured episode that I'm talking about, and the ship that I'm going to talk about, the Bajoran Interceptor, will come to console on March 6th. So you got a bunch of weeks to go, but at least now you know these ships. Seems like it kind of sucks that they're waiting so long for it, but your anniversary event will be out, and then you can do the Omega stuff, and I've talked about that before. Card is up here, if you don't watch recently, and I've talked about the featured episode and all that jazz. Dumb, and I thought you guys had already had this stuff. But anyways, it's coming to you guys March 6th. Let's get on to talking about ships. So we've got a ship review, because I got my Bajoran dinghy, I'm calling it, despite the fact that it's not very small. And then the Allied Escorts pilot. So that's what's going on here, and I just realized, I was like, the amount of ships that I cover on this segment for Star Trek Online, I swear, if you can't find a ship that suits your playstyle, what are you attempting? There's so many ships out there. Like, it's like it just seems like once a month or something, I'm covering a bunch of new ships. And you get 3 free ships a year, anniversary, summer and winter, and then whatever happens to be in between, let alone all the stuff they bring out on the C-Store, let alone all the stuff that they bring out in lockboxes, which is usually 3 ships, the super duper ship, the super ship, and then the low buy ship. Sometimes there's more, but I think there was one lockbox that had a couple. And then the original lockboxes had like the smaller pared down one, but we're talking just tier 6 right now. So what am I thinking about the Bajoran thing? Well, first of all, I didn't have the 4-piece set. I only had 3. That shield is graphically intense. Crap. I don't fly Escorts very well. I didn't take it on that mission. I still don't know how to pronounce it. I really wish they would have said something like that in the mission. So that's that. It turns well. If you load it up with a bunch of dual heavy cannons and you have beams in the back, that's cool. Because I had my Omni beams in the back. And then I had dual heavy cannons up front, and I needed to make sure I had a couple torpedo. So I had 3 Omni beams in the back. I had 3 dual heavy cannons up front and 2 torpedoes, because I wanted to try out that Trilithium set that was supposed to be like good for miracle workers. It was from one of the Geordie episodes. So I tried that Trilithium enhanced set with that torpedo, with the Tricobalt device, and then I put the Crenum torpedo? I don't know. No, it was the quantum phase torpedo because I wanted to have more draining. I just basically decked it out with a little bit of draining. I mean, I obviously used the Bajoran set, but like I said, only 3-piece. But that shield, as I don't fly Escorts very well, it was just like depletion. Or if I had something burning on the backside of me, it was like 1 shield and 0 shield, 1 shield, 0 shield, 1 shield, 0, 0. And I was like, I had to turn down my graphics just to deal with that. So kind of a on the Bajoran set. Not necessarily for the ship, because you can use that set on other things. The Domino console, it's cool. Didn't use it much because not many things stayed alive. Not because of my DPS. My DPS kind of sucked on it. Nothing stayed long enough to use it because I was leveling in battle zones and stuff. I still died a lot because I couldn't get shields on that thing. And the shields, there's just barely any regeneration on that. Like, I have shield skills like nobody's business, and I couldn't. I died so much in that. I'd maybe get off a full volley of cannon rapid fire 2, and then I'd just be obliterated. The shields would be gone, and the hull would lose, and then continuity would proc, and then I'd like, oh, okay, and then all the ships would come back after me. It seems like a good ship if you know how to fly it Escort, but you cannot take on 3 things at the same time with this thing. At least the way and taking on 3 things is just, to me, personally pathetic. Only 3 things? I finally, this morning, got back on my Vesta, and I went inside the featured episode so I could complete it because I momentarily forgot how to turn down my difficulty. I remembered in the mission while I was already on elite difficulty. But if I was dying in the Terran, the Badlands battle zone on my little Bajoran fighter, I didn't want to try elite difficulty. No. I realized that I can take on like 10 things at the same time. Zenkethi ships at the same time and live. So that's fun. But I can definitely see how it works with the Bajoran set pretty decently because it is small and needs what it has. But again, I never clicked on how to fly an escort because it spins around too fast. You got to face something, but you can't face it enough because you're too busy tricking out with the turning because it's like, oh, I'm going to turn here. Oh, I'm going to turn here. I'm going to turn here. And I'm like, I have to back up just to make sure that I'm centered enough so that the 45-degree arc can actually hit something. At least with the Vesta, the cone effect thing, which is 45 degrees, it has an outline that I can kind of line up on things. But, with no subsystem targeting, no sensor analysis, barely any draining as is. I mean, I had an energy siphon, but it was like, man, things move when I'm not on my science vessel. I had no gravity well. It was a horrible. It was like I just was like, I'm spamming cannons at things. That's it. Cannons and beams, and this is not fun. This is like just sitting in one spot. And it's great if like the thing is sitting still, like the planet killers, that's great. If it's not moving and you don't have to move because you can only fire on one thing, you do great because then you just cycle through all your stuff. But when you actually have to do real combat with ships moving, nothing's fun. At least not to me. I don't know. Speaking of escorts, we've got a new bit coming out. It's a 9-pack. Think about this as like a grid. And this is how it's going to work. You got Federation, Klingon, Romulan, Tactical, Engineering, Science. They're pilot vessels, so I put Tactical on top to appease those of you. And so you've got an Andorian 3-set, a Lethean 3-set, and a Dewan 3-set. That's the Federation, Klingon, Romulan. So the stats of them, since I'm just going to go over the stats, I don't need to go because the stat thing will have all the necessary things. The pictures are here on these if you want to look at these ships before maybe buying and shelling out 5,000 Zen? Something like that. So if you were really interested in the Andorian Tier 5 3-pack that came out a long time ago, this is basically the Tier 6 upgrade of those. Will the original consoles work on the Tier 5 Andorian, work on the Tier 6? I'll have to get that further down in the blog post and we'll figure that one out. They are pilot vessels and can use the arrow keys or something. I've never flown one, but you can like strafe, like usually with like in a ground-based, like on ground, you can kind of step to the side. Well, these ships, you can do that. You can yeah, you can back up. You can burst forward just a little bit. So like if you need to get out of an exploding ship, you can just, and it'll move you forward. Or you can back up, or you can just, like things blowing up here and you immediately move horizontal. It's got those directions, and that's that. It says executing each maneuver will rapidly reposition your starship while granting very brief damage immunity, but costs all available thruster fuel, which takes several seconds to recover. So you can't you can't do that. You have to wait. But they're still relatively cool, especially if you're like coming out of full impulse, and then hit back and you go. That's a benefit. I've seen some other pilot vessels doing it. The following 3 ships, 1 per faction, share identical stats and layouts, differing only in physical appearance and availability, i.e. you can't have the Lethean one on Federation. Engineering variants have a commander tactical / pilot, so you can have 4 pilot abilities if you're really into pilot stuff. Lieutenant Commander Engineering, Lieutenant Commander Universal, Ensign Engineering, Lieutenant Universal. So, by and large, a fair bit of universality. I'm taking a wild guess what makes this the engineering one is a console layout and possibly the Lieutenant Commander slot. We'll have to see in the next bit of ships. So it's got 5 tactical, 4 engineering, 2 science. Base turn rate of 16, plus 15 weapons, plus 5 engines. The console and the mastery we'll go over at the end because that applies to all three factions and all that jazz. We'll go over that at the end. The experimental weapon slot is equipped with an Alliance hyper cannon. I don't know what that looks like. We'll see if there's a picture for it probably later at the bottom. But that's just like the stats. We're looking at like 40,000 hull at level 60, 1.1 shield modifier, 5 in the front, 2 in the back. Pretty much how that goes. So it's the Andorian Kuthar pilot escort, the Lethean Oneros pilot escort, and the Dewan Dinazia pilot escort. That's the engineering variant. Let's see what the science variants are. By the way, they're all colored quasi-blue, at least in these pictures. Same hull, same shield, weapons, same thing. Lieutenant Commander Science, Lieutenant Commander Universal, Lieutenant Universal Ensign Engineering. Okay, so the Ensign Engineering probably maintains the same. The Lieutenant Commander is the thing that swaps out. It still has Commander Tactical / Pilot. 5 Tactical, 2 Engineering, 4 Science. So basically the Science and the Engineering swapped based on the last one. Plus 15 weapons, plus 5 engines. Again, comes with the Alliance Hyper Cannon, which all of these come with because it's an Alliance, not a Federation. Don't get confused that, it's the Alliance Hyper Cannon, so what do the Horde get? I'm sorry, I had to do that. And those ships are the Andorian Chimesh pilot escort, the Lethean Nemosin pilot escort, and the Dewan Ikabar. Fun to say, Ikabar pilot escort. The Dewan one looks weird. So does the Lethean one, but again, wow, that's strange looking though. The tactical variants, Andorian Thosin pilot escort, Lethean Zeshos pilot escort, and the Dewan Vandros pilot escort. There we go. Lieutenant Commander Tactical, that's that change. Commander Tactical / Pilot, Ensign Engineering, Lieutenant Commander Universal, Lieutenant Universal. So the thing that changes with the bridge officer seating is your Lieutenant Commander locked in slot. So engineering variant, engineering, science, tactical. That's how that goes. Like I said, it all makes sense if you think of it in a grid because they are trying to make similar ships yet themed differently. Obviously, the day one probably cloaks. I'm not sure if the Klingon one does. It might say later. The console on this one is 5 tactical, 3 engineering, 3 science, so it balances them. Again, not much different for pilot maneuvers or starship mechanic. Down here with the universal consoles. The wing torpedo platform will regularly fire photon torpedoes at your targets. Additionally, when you activate torpedo abilities, so spread or high yield, they will activate the 1 version of that. So if you activate torpedo spread 1, 2, or 3, it'll activate torpedo spread 1. High yield 1, 2, or 3, it'll activate high yield 1. The console also provides a passive boost to crit hit chance with projectile weapons and crit hit severity with projectile weapons. So if you're a beamboat, may not, obviously you're going to be able to use it on these, but these would not be good as an escort beamboat because you're going to want to at least have 1 torpedo on it, probably in the front and the back. Platforms last 60 seconds when summoned, periodically fire a torpedo at your current target, and as I just said, with any rank, torpedo spread, apply torpedo spread 1. The other is the console universal gateway trap spawner. Sounds like a science thing. Among the relics of the lost Day One civilization on New Romulus were found a number of partially functional rudimentary attempts to reproducing the gateway technology of their Iconian masters. The console provides a passive boost to scientific readiness. Your science bridge officer ability cooldown goes down. And control expertise. Creates a gateway trap within 2 kilometers of the foe and exit gateway near your location. Each lasts 10 seconds. All foes within 5 kilometers of gateway trapped are pulled slowly and suffer kinetic damage each second. Foes pulled within 0.2 kilometers of gateway trap teleport to exit gateway, all subsystems offline 4.5 seconds. So that's a good thing. If you got a science officer out there dropping gravity wells like they're... Yeah. Maybe throw this thing on there because they're already wrapped towards the center and you can start teleporting things in front of you. And guess what? Torpedo spread, cannon spray. Because, you just like back up, from the exit gateway and wait for things to appear and then just mow them down in front of you. Sounds like a good idea to me. I'd like to be that science officer that helps you do that, but think about it. That's a way to use that console ability. And when you activate the, even if you're using a tricobalt, like the trilithium tricobalt one, high yield 3, and just boom. Meanwhile, your wing platforms are doing the same thing. I don't know if, because they can't be drawn towards it, if a Citadel ship will teleport. Or Borg cubes. The large ships, I'm not sure, but I'm taking a wild guess most small things will. If you get this, comment below, tell me, does this work on large ships or whatnot? Also, a fun place to do this might be the middle area at the Dyson Sphere, especially when you're protecting one of the towers and everything beams in and they decloak around the tower. Just drop this thing on it and teleport them away so that they're not eating down at the thing, and then you just kill them over there. The tactical console looks like a neurophasic disruption field. Technology was modeled after some principles found present in Lethean neurophysiology, but on a starship-sized scale. Ow! Console provides a passive boost to flight speed and a resistance to slowing effects. Maybe not so much control effects, but slowing for sure. Once per second for 10 seconds, affecting up to 10 foes within 5 kilometers of targeted foe. Electrical damage, confuse for 1 second, 20% chance to disable for 1 second. That's something to hit everything that comes out of your exit gateway. While your cannon spray 3 or something. Set bonuses for these consoles, so it's a 2 set and a 3 set. 2-piece predictive maneuvering, increased accuracy and flight speed. It says 4-piece, but I'm taking them, I guess it's a typo and it's supposed to be 3-piece, unless there's a 4th piece I don't know about, because I just went over 3. Streamlined circuitry, reduced recharge time on all allied pilot escort console abilities. So all those consoles I just talked about have a reduced thing, most likely 50%, or at least 1 minute. So if they're a 3-minute cooldown, they're now a 2-minute cooldown, and that's disgusting. Wing platforms will utilize rank 2 of high yield and spread of rank 1. So there's an idea, if you want to use this torpedo idea with this, get all 3 ships of your faction. Because then you can put all 3 consoles on that same ship, and then you'll have rank 2 high yield coming from the wing cannon things. Not to mention a reduced cooldown on it. And if they last for 60 seconds and the cooldown goes to 2 minutes, that's 50% uptime of 2 things just shooting torpedoes. The starship traits are painful memories. This is on the engineering one. When activating any foe affecting engineering bridge officer abilities, aceton beam. This is reflected by an electrical damage over time effect that also slows the afflicted foe's engines. 50% flight speed, electrical damage each second, 100% shield penetration. It doesn't actually say which ones it is and which ones are considered foe affecting and which are not, but I know that aceton beam is that. Perhaps the cloud, eject warp plasma, possibly, not sure about that. Improved gravity well. Probably want to pick one of those up if you're going to fly more of the science variant one. This, like, if anything, I would buy just the science variant of the Andorian ship to level this up. While this trait is slotted, your gravity well anomalies last twice as long and recharge much faster. Additionally, the primary foe targeted by your gravity well activation will have their damage resistance rating reduced for the duration of the anomaly. Duration of gravity well increased from 20 seconds to 40 seconds. Recharge time of gravity well reduced by 20 seconds, let alone what my duty officer does. And primary target of gravity well suffers minus 20 all damage resistance rating for the duration of 40 seconds. What does that do to the extra procs? By the way, there's a duty officer, it's a gravimetric scientist, it procs extras, 25% chance for an extra one, 20% chance for a third one, 15% chance for a third proc, and a 10% chance for a fourth one. So if you roll your dice right, you have 5 gravity wells up at the same time. Just letting you know. Next starship trait, on the tactical one, Promise of Ferocity. While this starship trait is slotted, activating tactical or pilot bridge officer abilities, so something that actually favors these design of these ships, will provide a bonus damage buff as long as you remain in combat. Oh, dang. The buff stacks 5 times, so you're going to scale that one up really fast, but all stacks are immediately lost when leaving combat. Gotcha. So yeah, it's 5% bonus all damage with starship weapons for duration of combat, 5 stacks maximum, all stacks lost when combat ends. But that's the thing. You just build them right back the moment you go back into combat because you have to activate tactical and pilot bridge officer abilities. And cannon, torpedo, beam in case you have beams in the back. Because whatever. Even if you do, that's 10% bonus damage by just activating your high yield and cannon ability, cannon rapid fire, just going into combat. So there's 10% bonus damage. And then when those cooldowns are up, or if you use a slightly lower version, then you activate those again and you just more, let alone pilot abilities. Experimental weapon, it's the Alliance Hypercannon. Obviously it fires in a 360 arc. Has a chance of causing additional effects associated with each of the energy types primarily associated with the 3 major factions. So if you are Federation, it's Phaser and you have a subsystem offline. Disruptor for Klingon, or the Lethean ship. Damage resistance rating debuff, as Disruptor does. For Romulan and for the dewan vessels, Plasma, which is just a damage over time. It may be upgraded like a standard weapon, swapped out for other experimental weapons, and placed in any other starship's experimental weapon slot. So, if you like the ship you have, but this Alliance Hypercannon sounds great, maybe just buy one of the smaller ships, maybe the tactical one. So, the consoles, however, only work on the Alliance pilot vessels. Only works on those. Starship traits will work on anything else. Special weapon unlocks. Commissioning any of the ships in this bundle will unlock the ability to purchase specialized weapons from the dilithium store. Andorian phasers, Lethean disruptors, and dewan plasma weapons are each made available to the applicable faction. Each of the vessels comes pre-equipped with a suite of these weapons as well. Starship interiors. The Andorian escorts have access to the interior previously released by Andorian vessels. Dewan and Lethean vessels will make use of existing interiors available from their respective factions. So, sorry. That's that for this ship. These ships. All 9 of them. Glad this blog was a little bit more put together. If you have any questions, ask below. Whether it's in the Fleet forums or YouTube here. I will chat with you guys next week. And hopefully answer any questions or bring up news.